Welcome to People, Places, and Parables, highlighting people and the positive effect they have in our community.
Hey there, it's Chris with People, Places, and Parables. It's true, my blood type is B positive, and that is my outlook on life. I'm really excited today to have Mila Tappan and Nikki Vachon here from the Finance Authority of Maine. And it's not the Irene Cara song fame. It's about education and funding. And they're going to cover a lot of things today, from financial literacy with youth, higher education affordability. And they have some great programs. There's a 529 program with grants for Maine residents and a free student loan repayment help, which is great. For anyone who's gone to college, that's always a little dark cloud hanging over your head financially. So, Nikki, welcome. I'm so glad that you and Mila could join us today. Tell us a little bit about FAME. Just a quick overview of some of the things that you do.
For sure. Yeah. So thanks for having us, because Mila and I are we're super passionate about this. We've been doing this for 100 years. Mila used to work at the University of Maine. I worked at Hudson. We are super passionate about being able to help people with getting the training they need. And FAME is an organization where we're quasi-state. So it's a quasi-state entity. We kind of work for the state. We kind of don't. But what it means to your listeners really is that our education outreach team is a free resource. So you can always reach out to us if they have questions. And I don't think enough people know about us. So I'm just really excited to spread the word. There's cool stuff we do, because people will often say to me, like, I had no idea you guys did this. So Mila, help me if there's something else you want to add there.
We have a business side of the house and we have an education side of the house. So on the education side of the house, last year we merged our college access team with our college savings team. And so, the ultimate goal was to have this one team that could offer comprehensive, higher education affordability support and help. So whether people want to talk with us about saving, primarily for higher education, but heck, we'll talk about saving for anything. If you want to talk about financial wellness, regardless of people's pathways, financial wellness is so critical. Whether you have a lot of money or a little bit of money or somewhere in between, that is so critical. And of course, our bread and butter is also, filing the FAFSA, getting financial aid. We know how to pay for higher ed, how to deal with student loans after the fact. So all of that is really important. And we have this 9-member team, and 6 of whom are actually outreach people spread throughout the state. So wherever people are, we have people available. We do a lot virtually, to be honest with you now, but we still do have people that cover each of the counties, so that we're sure that we can, meet people literally and figuratively wherever they are.
And it's so important, financial literacy. And one of the things that we've discovered with Welcome to Housing and the work I've done in the past when we're dealing with people that are escaping domestic violence, for instance, a lot of times the checkbook, the taxes, the family budget is just kept out of reach of the victim. And I would imagine that you see a lot of people that are trying to play catch up, because in a perfect world, we'd start out with grade school kids on financial. I mean, if a small child wants to learn different languages, the best time to learn it is when they're small. So what are some of the challenges you see facing Mainers in attaining some of their educational goals, whether it's at a young age or whether it's somebody that's starting over from a bad situation?
See challenges and opportunities at every single age. So one of the things that we think about this financial wellness piece is one of the programs that we have, which I think is really cool, is we have something called Invest in Me Reads. And so that is a free family resource that's available. We literally send books. We send one book per year that's basically a financial wellness related book to all of Maine's students. So first grade through 6th grade, they all get a resource on financial wellness. So one of the things we're trying to do at that grade level, at those ages, is to make it fun and to incorporate it into the schools, activities and things that families can do at home. So what we'd like to have is have money not be this really difficult topic. You mentioned people in difficult situations. We all know that money can cause a lot of tension and a lot of problems. But if we can create a scenario where it's just a commonplace thing to talk about money. And for kids to grow up understanding money and also having a sense of their roles in the whole money thing, and that they have a right to have information and understand how things work. The ultimate goal is to hope that people either have the resources already, which we know most people don't, or know how to access the resources that are going to allow them to achieve their goals. And one of the things that, we have focused on, and Nikki mentioned that I worked at UMaine for years, she worked at Husson for years, but we totally acknowledge that there are all sorts of different pathways for people. There is not like one specific pathway that someone should take. We need people who want to pursue, higher education, 2-year degree, 4-year degrees. We need workforce training. We need people doing apprenticeships, all of these things. And so one of our primary roles is just to make sure people know about those options and then how to access those options, whether they're younger or people who have already had some challenges and are looking to, re-engage in education or in the workforce.
That's excellent. One of the things that was in the news a lot, and it wasn't all that long ago, I went to a meeting at Penobscot Job Corps, and this was before they finally found the money and the good sense to keep that program open. And to me, having even considered closing that down would be a huge mistake because it's such a good investment. Do some of your people that work in outreach work with the Job Corps programs in Bangor and up in the county?
I work in the county specifically. I'm from northern Maine, so I am up there all the time. Anyway, I'm from Fort Fairfield, so definitely up in the county. Job Corps, we do an event that was at Job Corps. We do the Financial Fitness Fair, and that's in partnership with the Aroostook County credit unions. And they were doing it on Job Corps grounds, and it was a lot of their students. My God, what a good program! It's amazing. Even the Bangor campus is great too. So we connect with a lot of partners. Just to go back to your last thought, I was just thinking as Mila was talking, I feel like we're kind of like a traffic cop sometimes, where even if we don't have the resource, like you were saying, with victims of domestic violence, we absolutely will help those folks one-on-one for free. We talk to them about budgeting, getting banked, which is another whole issue, a barrier that a lot of people have. But also we partner with New Ventures that has a rainy day fund that has some matching money that folks don't know about. So I feel like we're that traffic cop, but also with Job Corps, I have a contact in Bangor that, we talk to, and they know what services that we have available, so they can connect people with us. So we kind of have a back and forth between a lot of our partners. There's a long way to go with that.
That's okay. One of the things that I've seen too with a lot of the people that we help with Welcome to Housing, there's so much now on the internet. I know one particular person that we've helped in the past who's volunteered has lost a lot of money going to online banking. And to this day, I'm still like a deer in headlights why anyone would get into cryptocurrency, because from what I understand from cryptocurrency, that was originally set up for black market transactions. And you think of the bank ads and you think about the credit union ads, they always have a little tagline that says, this bank is member FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. To me, trusting whether, I don't know if I can say Chime or not, but some of these other ones, it's a huge risk because that's your rent money. That's your food money. That's, what you might owe somebody. It might be your car payment. And it seems like the way things are today, it's really easy to get into a financial hole. And I've seen people do it, and it's heartbreaking to watch because, like they say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So what are some of the other organizations and agencies that you are in touch with? Like, for instance, is Pine Tree Legal or any groups like that where somebody is trying their darndest to get ahead and wants help, but they really, most couples from what I understand, one's a salesperson, one's an accountant. In my 41 years, my wife knows all the ins and outs of finances. I'm the sales mouth, the big mouth out there. What are some of the organizations that you folks work with to help keep people on an even keel so they're not slipping into homelessness or they're not getting into eviction situations?
organization. The other day, for example, we had a presentation by iLab. So they do a lot of immigration work here in Maine. So throughout the years, we've connected with, as Nikki mentioned, New Ventures is absolutely a partner. We have talked with, Equality Maine and a whole bunch of other organizations. So the vast majority we have had some connection with. We do try to make sure that we are very well informed as to what's out there. So within the team, we segment a little bit. So Nikki, for example, does a ton of work with veterans. We have another person who does a lot of work with our adult population. We work with people who have been incarcerated, for example. And so for all of those individuals, they have a good sense of the resources that are applicable to someone maybe experiencing that situation. So we certainly do have those sorts of connections. I'll be honest with you, where we primarily work is in helping people go on to some sort of higher education. So that's where we spend the bulk of our time. There are absolutely circumstances where the first thing we have to do is to discuss kind of these past issues that have put them in a situation that make it difficult. But then what we do is we work with students to say, okay, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing for work? And how can we get there? And so whether that is connecting them with, training programs, we're always, looking at training programs, learning more about training programs, talking about how to fund them, talking about moving on to higher education. We talk a lot about things as basic as, when you go to school and if you receive financial aid, for example, the college acknowledges the fact that not only do you have tuition and fee costs, but you also have housing costs and transportation costs, and financial aid can cover those things. So sometimes it's just making sure people know, you got to be at a certain point before maybe you can even consider pursuing higher education, mentally and financially, you got to be somewhat stable. But higher education not only provides the opportunity to learn those skills, but, we've seen people for the first time in their lives have had some stability when it comes to their housing and their food because they are enrolled in school and being able to access money that can help them, have a little bit more stability than maybe what they've had in the past.
I think that's wonderful, too, because what you're doing is essentially a couple of things. You're doing prevention. In other words, you're getting people on track. I know, for instance, there's programs like Upward Bound.
Yes.
We have literacy volunteers, which is Mary Marin Taylor does an incredible job. When I worked at Hope House, we had several people that were in recovery. And it's wonderful to see the look on a person's face when they realize that they can get financial aid, that they can pursue a career and so forth. One of the things that I've noticed in more recent years, a good example is Eastern Maine Community College, is when Chinbro came along and they started building these great big structures that would go all the way down to the Gulf Coast and so forth. They needed welders. They needed a lot of different people. So it's instead of just the traditional liberal arts, which there's nothing wrong with, they were specifically setting up courses so the minute they graduated, even before they were graduating, they could get experience in a job that they could be pursuing. So what are some of the successes you've seen over the past few years?
Seen so many first. Nikki works every day. She makes a difference in people's lives. So I'll let her go first.
Yeah, I was just thinking about our website, by the way, famine.com. We have a ton of resources, but I was just thinking about the Pathways website when you were at the webpage where we're talking about multiple pathways. And we're so lucky in Maine, lucky/not, that we have so many resources available. And I think like what you're talking about is the Maine Community College system has some free short-term training programs. Like even like one BIW sponsors where you can get training and get paid while you're working. And so there's a link from that to like the short-term training program. But like we need so many skilled workers. I mean, it's kind of why our team exists, is that we are here to help grow a skilled workforce, right? And I've been doing this for like 20, I don't even know, like a long time. And I never thought that we would have so many free resources, free ways to go to college, free ways to get training, or at least money that's available to help people pay. And I think like Mila, I was thinking about when he was saying like people light up when they don't realize that they can do this. The free community college program inspired so many people to realize that they could actually go for free tuition, still going to pay fees and room and board if they're on campus. But like when Mila and I work with students and they file the FAFSA, they apply for financial aid, it tells you immediately how much aid you can get. And like to see on their face, like, so you're telling me I can go and I don't have to pay tuition at all. And sometimes it covers fees and sometimes it covers even like some housing costs. Mila and I have both experienced that. And like I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. So like we get very excited about that.
Well, I think people, not necessarily Washington right now, but people over the last couple of decades, when I worked for the March of Dimes is a good example, they would have a graph. It would be this little amount that they would spend on educating people of childbearing age. And then there'd be a huge, really tall bar, and that was for a couple of days, and the neonatal intensive care unit. Education is always, always, always a good investment. And that's why I think it's frustrating at the federal level now to see so many programs being cut off at the knees and, people are becoming creative. And I look at, for instance, literacy volunteers. I worked with a couple of people through that program. One of them was hearing impaired, and they were able to come and do some work with not only an interpreter, but a job coach. I mean, it's 3 people around a computer. It's kind of like a Norman Rockwell print, but it was great because this person, even with hearing impairment, you could not stop her. She was brilliant. She wanted to work, and there are ways to get around that challenge. One of the funniest ones was a guy that sounded just like Joe Pesci. He was excited to have the literacy training and to look into higher education because he said, I'd much rather be doing this than breaking into your home. And to which we're like, okay, I don't know if we're going to air that on the United Way ad or not, but it's such a positive thing. In terms of personnel, when you're out there working with the people in outreach, do you folks ever work with, say, libraries and other venues where rather than trying to go out and little groups of people say, hey, come on in, we're going to train you, we're going to have a little bit of information so there can be a central location. I know, for instance, Bangor Public Library over the past couple of years with Food and Medicine and Wabanaki does an informational fair. The Veterans Group, Maine Veterans in Need, and the Maine Homeless Veterans Action Committee, they do something called a stand down. They go to the Maine employment offices, and they find veterans who are really struggling. And instead of that veteran having to go to all these different state and federal offices, can come to this one thing and meet all these representatives. Is that something you see in a lot of the Maine communities where you have an opportunity to bring people together? It is like a captive audience, I guess.
I've done both of those. Love the Bangor Library, the events they hold. I mean, just love them to begin with. There's that, but also the stand downs are amazing and a great way to reach a bunch of people. We try to get more bang for our buck to go to an event to reach a lot of people. Mila, I'll let you fill in, but I think that like we've been trying different things, like doing virtual financial aid information sessions. Like our fall is pretty full where our team goes out to all areas of the state where we work in high schools, but we invite the community. Like you don't just have to be a high school at Fort Kent Community High School. Like you don't have to be in high school to go. Like anybody can come to our events. But like we also try to get virtual events. Like if you got a soccer game that night and you can't come, we have a virtual version of that. We also record it and put it on our YouTube. So I don't want to leave Mila out.
So a lot of it has to do with accessibility.
Yeah, for sure.
That we work with a lot is adult education. And adult education is like amazing because they do so much from working with, high school students who, didn't graduate and need some additional coursework to get their high set or whatever. And, or people who've come back after, being adults and want to get a little bit more education as well. So we have for example, a whole series of webinars that we do in conjunction with adult education. And so, we do those, in the evening and we record them as to what Nikki said. We make them accessible to people. So trying to meet people where they are. One of the things we were just talking about in another meeting is we sponsor the high school basketball tournament. because we know that's a great way to connect with people. So, you won't hear any great detail about what we do at Fame during the basketball tournament, but you'll hear our name. You'll hear that we're available to help people through this process. And so we just want that, that brand recognition, to be honest with you. And what we want associated with Fame is we can help, that we use that all the time. We're here to help. And so we'll go just about anywhere. I mean, you would not believe all the things we've tried over the years. So we continue to do that. But I would say since the pandemic, to Nikki's point, it's not only about where we are physically, it's about offering a lot more virtual activities or virtual events that we then record, or also just having more resources available on our website so that people can access them at the time that's right for them.
Excellent. And one of the other populations that I think is wonderful that's getting help, for instance, with Maine Housing Authority, if you've ever been in foster care, you can actually get a $10,000 grant to help with your down payment or your closing costs. One of the things that I've heard a lot about, and I've met people who were in foster care and they age out at 18, and I would imagine that you run into quite a few people like in that situation where they really need to get a decent education to get a decent job. And I know that that's a big challenge for a lot of kids that are in the kids that become adults in foster care. So do you see a lot of that out in the state?
We do. And I think that we have some great news for anyone who's been through the foster care system. So things that we would like them to know about is, first of all, there's a tuition waiver program, and there are a limited number of slots. It's 30 per year, but students who have been in foster care can apply and potentially receive free tuition at Maine's public institutions. So that's one program that's available. Even if a student doesn't qualify for that or isn't eligible for that for some reason, students who have been in foster care, we were just talking about it during a session that we were doing earlier today, students who've been in foster care typically, especially if they were older kids in foster care, are going to be what we consider independent when it comes to financial aid eligibility. So it's only going to be their information that gets taken into consideration, which means that they are likely going to be eligible for the maximum amount of financial aid that a school has to offer. Additionally, we do work closely with DHHS. And so we have connections there where we can say, yes, you are now 18, but there are additional resources available for students who are continuing on with their education, but need some assistance with some of their other expenses as well. So, I think this is one of those situations, and we see many of these where there's really great resources available. It's just about having these things like having a conversation with you, so we can spread the word and let people know that there are options available. So we very much want those individuals to, talk with us, and either we can help them or we can refer them to other people who can help them.
And they have
Media
too. I just want to mention Jessica Whittier, one of our team members, her population is working specifically with foster care. She's adopted kids from foster care. So she knows both sides of those fence. So we have her as well.
That's excellent. And one of the things that I have to really praise the state of Maine on is our media. Radio, TV, print. TV stations are a good example because of the fact that most of them now start out at 4 p.m. and go right up to the national feed at 6:30. In a perfect world, what are some of the things you would like to see coming down the road that would make your lives easier and would make it easier for you to serve more people as they get their financial trolley back on track?
It's gracious. We could roll the world, Nikki. I think that one of the things that I'm concerned about and wish I could do something more about is I am thinking a lot about people who do have, student loan debt and the challenges that they face with that. And so that's a group too that we want to connect with. We actually contracted with a national expert, and she's absolutely amazing. And so, if people are struggling with student loan repayment, for example, I'd like to be able to fix it. I'd like to be able to make some changes. I'd like them to come to me and say, Mila, what would you like to see? And then actually implement it. Given that that's not going to happen, what I want people to know is that we can at least work with them or work with our expert as well to help them figure out what is the best pathway. What's the most affordable options that you might have? Because what we don't want to see is people who do have any student loan debt, just try to, ignore it, put it aside, think that it's just going to go away, because it's not. And the ramifications are really significant. So if people are already in that place, we can help them. Or if they are not in that place, but we just don't even want to think about it, we can help. We can talk through these things. We're never going to judge. We're just going to try to provide resources and support. So, if we've got people out there that are listening to this, who this is on their mind, this is keeping them awake at night, please let us know how we can help. Because that is one area we're concerned about.
I feel like I'm concerned also with the rising number of people who are in default because it was on hold for so long, and people feel like there might be some Hail Mary coming. For folks that they just want to ignore it, because I get it, I'm there too. That's my MO, right? If I ignore it, it'll go away. Student loans is not that. Absolutely not that. They can work with us. We need to get them out of default as soon as possible, because every day they stay in default costs them exponential amount of money. But also, like, for those people who were in the SAVE plan who haven't yet converted, they're offering, gosh, Mila, what is it? A 1%?
1%, yes.
1% interest rate deduction if they set up before September 30th to get auto payments set up. And I feel like that's something, like, I've not seen it anywhere. And I mean, like, we got to get people on this, because 1% is huge. So, like, that's one of the things we want to get folks to know about as well.
And auto payment makes sense too, because you're cutting down all those logistics of mailing out a bill and waiting for somebody to write a check or call in and so forth. I just had a thought. It's too bad we can't get Cooper Flagg to talk to LeBron James, or LeBron to talk to Cooper Flagg. There are a lot of heroes out there. One of my heroes is LeBron James, not because of his basketball, because of the fact that he's decided to help a lot of young people who have the brains, have good hearts, but can't afford to get into college. And he's coming through for them. I'm hoping more celebrities out there do things like that, because it's just so important. Closing thoughts. We got a couple of minutes left. What are some of the things you're looking forward to in the coming year for the program?
So excited that we have such great public institutions here, and we have some very affordable private institutions as well. And I think it's like anything that, you tend to hear the horror stories. People tend to share the really, really bad experiences. And there are just so many great opportunities, here in this local Bangor area for people who want to pursue some sort of training or higher education. One of the things about community colleges we were talking about a moment, having free tuition. Here's the thing, is that most of the people who apply for financial aid, which you have to do to access this free tuition, find out that they're actually eligible for a lot more. They might be eligible for that federal Pell Grant or that Maine state grant. And, there just are some really, really affordable ways here. In this area, here in Maine specifically, we have a great state with so many awesome resources. So I think what I'm looking forward to this coming year is just continuing to spread this information, make sure as many people as possible know about it, and be sure that people know that there's not just that one option. There's multiple options, and we need everybody. We need our plumbers, we need our electricians, we need our lawyers, we need our doctors, we need everybody. And so whatever it is for you, let us help you, figure out how you can achieve that goal.
So inclusivity is a huge part.
Yeah.
Any last words, Nikki?
I just want to let folks know that they can go to our website and sign up for a free meeting. And we don't charge. People always ask me, like, how do I pay you? I'm like, the state pays me. Like, please go to famemaine.com/contact, and you can talk to us about anything. You want to talk to us about, maybe they have the Alphon grant they didn't know, or maybe they want help with a FAFSA, or they're, struggling to figure out how to find an affordable school or pay back their student loans. We're here to help, and it's free. Please come see us.
And we'll put all that contact information in there. I want to thank you both for coming here today and talking to us about the Finance Authority of Maine. And if I could, I'd actually add the Irene Cara song at the very end. Just don't make me dance. Thank you again, and we will get all the contact information out there. And if you can just hold on for one moment.